Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we're going to show you how to repair water damaged plywood and veneer. This is a common repair where the veneer is either peeled off or damaged, and sometimes this happens with plywood. Now this piece we're working on is the undercarriage of an antique sewing machine. We'll show you when it's all done, and you can see how damaged it is. It's delaminated, the glue's gone, the veneer is broken, it's missing, and it's quite wavy. And this looks like a bit of a nightmare, but we're going to show you it's not that hard to fix. A few clamps, a little tight bond glue, a little ingenuity, and then a little touch up when we're done, and then bing bang boom, this piece is ready to go again. So the wood glue we're going to use is right here, Type Bond 2. Nothing too fancy. And what we're going to do is we're going to load it into a syringe, a glue syringe. Okay, I usually fill the syringe up about halfway, maybe 2/3. I try not to overfill it. That way the plunger gets in there nice and tight, makes it easier to work with. And not too difficult. And then you just put your glue in, and now you're going to push your plunger in. Takes all of 25, 30 seconds to do, and now here we are. We're at our piece. Okay, very simple to do. You slide the needle in the gaps, you push the plunger, it shoots glue into that area. I try to start down all the way at the back, the deepest I can go, and add to it there. If you need to get really deep, you just got to be creative in the way you get in there. Sometimes I'll use a utility knife to pry open other parts. Now, right here, you see me kind of testing to make sure that the veneer is solid in spots. And the needle is very strong, so you can use the needle to kind of move around the wood, the veneer or plywood, whatever you want to call it. And right here, it's just a little loose on the edge, so I'm going to use it just to kind of squeeze in a bit of glue right there. Now, a little cleanup with a paper towel, get that excess glue out of the way. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of wax paper here just to keep my clamps from sticking to the piece. Now, I'm going to just use these inexpensive little pistol clamps, I call them. They have a rubber edge on them, which will work well here because it'll help shape to that curve edge. And I'm going to just put one right after the other all the way through. And as I add them, I'm going to squeeze them down, and then I'm going to add more glue and then do the next section. Now, you can put a long piece of wood and a couple of clamps, but because the back of this is rounded, then I'd be only pressing in that one spot where the wood hits, whereas by using these clamps with the rubber ends, lets them conform a little bit more to that shape. All right, and then here you can see all my clamps are lined up. I let this dry overnight, and you could maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, it all depends. But because the wax paper tends to seal the area, the glue will take a little longer to dry right on the edge. It should, because there's not as much air in there. You're kind of sealing the glue off from the air. Now, I'm just going to start popping them off one at a time, and we're going to see how we look. So I think these sat maybe about 10 hours drying. And we're going to see now, it's very common to have to go back and add glue into other areas that maybe didn't lay down well. As you get more experience with this, you get better at it, but it's not a big deal. Just you have an area that didn't get stuck down, just add some glue there and go again. Or sometimes they're much smaller areas and you can use a little instant glue. So peeling off the wax paper, and this already, to me, feels much more rigid and firm. And I have this excess glue here on the edge, and I have to clean up all my excess glue so it squeezes out of the edge. It also squeezes out in between the broken veneer as it goes down the piece. So there's a lot of glue all over this piece that I have to get rid of now. Now, you could squeeze it out, clamp it, unclamp it, clean it with a wet rag, do all this stuff, but I'm just going to clean it after the fact. So this is 80 grit sandpaper. Now, this piece was very wavy, if you remember the original pictures, because that was what water does. It kind of makes wood move around a little bit. So I'm using a sanding block, and I'm knocking down the highs. So I'm just trying to flatten it out a little bit. I know I'm sanding my color off. That doesn't worry me too much. I'm going to put color back into this piece. So I'm going to first work with it, 80 grit, sand it down. I'm not sanding it down all the way flat. I'm just kind of making it look a little bit better. I'm not making this look perfect. It isn't a high visibility area. If it was a high visibility area, it'd be a little bit different. Now I'm coming back with 120 grit, and I'm going to just fingertip sand now. Now I'm going to get the areas where the sanding block didn't reach because it was riding on the high areas. And there's also areas where the veneer is missing that we're going to deal with in just a short little bit. But you're going to sand it and just keep working it, and then you're going to keep, cleaning your glue off. It takes some time. So don't rush the preparation. Don't rush the sanding. This is some of the most important part of the work. The will to prepare the work is more important than the will for the work to come out. You have to set it up to succeed. So you take your time in these beginning parts. Your sanding, your preparation, your cleaning, and then when it comes time for the fun parts, the color and the varnish, you look like you're doing really good. If you don't take care of the preparation part, then the color and the varnish really does become difficult or doesn't come out as well as you want it to. So here you can see I'm using my utility knife and I'm scraping off some of this excess glue. Now this happens to be in some of the cavities it's missing veneer. So I just want to kind of get it out of the way so that I could use my fill. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take a razor blade and I'm going to use it perpendicular to the piece. And I'm just going to kind of scratch off the excess glue that's squeezed out between the parts. So glue is not your friend outside of the joints. It's your friend inside the joints. If it's outside the joints, you got to get rid of it. Now, I don't want to put vinegar on it or do any of these things and scrub it because it's going to just eat into the veneer. Now I'm just taking a little bit of denatured alcohol. That's all this is. And you can see I'm wearing my gloves because denatured alcohol absorbs to the skin. And it does have poison in it. That's why it's called denatured. Okay, so working with denatured alcohol, use gloves. And this is what we're looking at. So we have it wiped down. You can see where the color is brighter is where I sanded with the block and knocked some of the wood down in that area so that I have a flatter surface. But definitely this is improving. I'm very happy with the way this is looking right now. After you do your glue up with a large area, you're going to have a bunch of smaller areas you need to glue back. Now you can clamp them with the yellow glue, but they're smaller, and I'm going to use this as an instant glue here and a little bit of accelerator. So I'm going to get it a little bit underneath there. This is the accelerator I use, but there's a bunch of different types. I'm going to hold this nice and flat with this utility knife blade. I'm just kind of looking at it here, making sure that I got squeeze out all around, and I'm going to just spray a bunch of accelerator on there. After about 35-40 seconds, I'm able to take my hand away and it should be stuck down. You just kind of want to make sure that when you take your hand away that it's stuck there, it's not still moving around. And then I'm going to come back over with the accelerator, spray it a little bit more, and it should stay in place. Now there's a little chip out there we're going to fill in with Bondo, but we're going to show you how to fill Bondo in a couple of these larger areas. So Bondo is a great product for repairs like this. You do have to color it, but there's ways to do that, and we're going to show you that in some other videos. So I mix up the Bondo. I'm going to get a little bit on that wooden pallet there. So that's just a little piece of wood covered with some masking tape, and when the Bondo hardens, I take the masking tape off and put some new on for the next time around. I like to put the hardener on a little bit of a paper towel or something so that I can kind of pull off just as much as I need. The more hardener you put in there, the faster it's going to set up. You want a kind of light pink color just like that, and you can see what I'm doing here is I'm pushing it into these areas where the veneer is missing. So you have to kind of spread it on, but you also have to force it in. You really want to force it into the grooves and the cracks. And there's some gaps where the veneer patches that were glued down had a little bit of holes in them, so I need to fill them in. So I can fill them in with a lot of different things, but I'm going right here with Bondo, and I'll just knock them out at the same time. And now you see what I'm doing is taking my razor blade, I'm moving this around a little bit, and then I'm going to skim off the excess and let it dry. And I like using this product because it will set up in about 15 minutes. It's sandable in about 15 minutes. That's a real good thing because it helps you move things along. Bondo is also an excellent adhesive. So there's times when I'll slide a little underneath a little bit of loose veneer and push it down and hold it in place. Now the Bondo's dry, and I'm just going to take a little 220 grit paper here, and I'm just going to fingertip sand it, nothing too fancy, and I'm going to smooth it out to feel. Now this piece is still a little wavy, but it's a lot less wavy than it used to be, and because of where it sits on the piece, I'm going to be okay with it being a little bit wavy, and it's going to look a whole lot better than it did before. I shot some sealer on it after I finish sanding it down. And you can see where the Bondo's sticking out, and this is our before and after. You get much tighter. It's not perfect, but it's definitely going to pass, especially where it sits in the piece. Now you can see the Bondo patches. Look at our other videos. I'll put some links in the description where you can see how to touch the color up. I'm very happy with the way this looks. It's not falling apart. The veneer isn't going to flake off. And depending on where it is in a piece, depends on how much extra effort you have to put in it. Here's a picture of the piece and the way it sits. It's the undercarriage to this beautiful antique treadle sewing machine. And you can see this just flows perfectly. Now, to see the touch-up part of it, look for our touch-up videos. We'll put them in the description at the end of the video. And here's a picture of the front of the piece. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, every time we restore a piece, it doesn't go in the landfill, and a tree doesn't get cut down to make new ones. I don't have a problem with cutting down trees, but let's try to save them for things we really need. If you have any questions, comments, want to call me a shoemaker, feel free to put them in the comments section below. I'll try to respond, or if you want to see a video on something. Please remember to like and subscribe. You all have a good day now.